setup is interesting. And then we're going to delve into the music industry and all of the horrificness that seems to swirl within the depths of it. And Izzy, before we do that, introduce yourself. Let us know who you are. And thank you for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. My name's Izzy N. Griffin. I just kind of go over the music industry in general. I used to be in a band that was pretty successful. My father was signed to Geffen Records in the 90s, and he walked away from the industry after seeing how insane it was and the things that they wanted him to do. Yeah, I'm coming at you from a VHS camera, actually. For some reason, I have like a normal setup, but the VHS cam is the only thing that would link for this stream. So, yeah, if you see my camera turn blue at some point, I'm having to rewind the tape to actually get it to you. So
we were talking earlier, like this is what a live stream would look like in the 90s if broadband was what it is now. This is what we'd be looking at, people. This is it right here. But yeah, look, so Izzy, I mean, the music industry, I think we all feel like there's a lot to answer for, right? And there's good reason why we've seen quite a spark in like independent artists and people going down other avenues, and we'll touch on that as we progress. But tell us, I mean, feel free if you wanted to as well touch on your dad's story, but tell us really what was the shifting point for you, and give us some build up too if you want to talk a little bit about your career and how you landed on that. Please do, like, paint the picture.
Yeah, so I was in a band. We were called The Slumps. We were not huge by any means, but we had gotten ourselves enough attention to where we were getting our foot in the door, so to speak, particularly with a management company that worked with really big acts like Kiss, John Bon Jovi. We were slated to be an opening act for bands in that arena, and things kind of didn't work out. In a good way, like it ended up working out later with what I'm doing now. But, you know, that kind of came through my dad and his time in the music industry. And prior to sort of me learning everything I learned, he had walked away from the industry after seeing the sort of occult side of the industry and everything that happened. My dad actually sang the theme song for that 70s show, the first season. So if you look up so season 1, it was sang by a person named Todd Griffin. That's my father. And he actually like didn't continue on after the first season. And, you know, he was signed to Geffen. He knew Kurt Cobain, like all of these things that are like huge in the 90s. He was kind of in a band that was in the middle of these things. And he literally walked away from it at the like height, right before things really could have started going for him. And I always thought that was really strange. And I always thought that it was really strange, excuse me, that right when I am kind of starting to get going, things kind of didn't work out as well, right? So long story short, I have learned over the years that the industry is essentially like what I call the secular priest class of the Americas. And what that means is essentially America in and of itself is sort of like this principality that is its own sort of spiritual entity. And the musicians of today are fulfilling a role where they are the priests of this sort of entity. Okay. This ties into a lot of Judaic sort of, you know, I don't really know what I would call it. It's tied into a lot of Judaic systems that are very old, that go all the way back, you know, about 6,000 years. And the industry has become this intertwined system that is entirely, you know, meant to give energy to the sort of Americas, I guess you could say.
Okay. And we often talk about the occult's harvesting of positive energy, right? And putting out music that's designed to almost replicate a place of worship. If you imagine the stereotypical scene, right, of someone in a church kneeling down, lighting a candle, praying. We've all seen it in a movie. Some of you have done it yourself, right? But is there really much difference between being sat at a computer and staring at an Instagram of someone, like inserts evil celebrity here, and forward projection that energy and that mindset? And I think the occult have mastered the art of music becoming that tool, right? It really has.
Yeah. So as I've, studied this and really kind of gone down various rabbit holes, what I've kind of deduced is they're essentially using a form of modern alchemy, right? Alchemy is this system in which you are trying to use hermetic principles to transmute yourself into something higher. So if you kind of take a step back from what the traditional idea of alchemy is, right, which is you're trying to turn lead into gold, that is the material understanding and interpretation of what alchemy is. Mm-hmm. What alchemy is underneath that is actually this system in which you are trying to transmute or improve yourself into a higher version of yourself, right? So when you had these alchemists in the medieval times or whatever, the whole turning lead into gold thing was something that they kind of used as a proto-science so that the churches would kind of view what they were doing in this way of, oh, they're just kind of like trying to make gold, right? Like nobody, whatever. Really what it is it's an entire occult system where they're using something called hermeneutics and these principles like as above, so below to change and transmute oneself. So like you're saying, praying at a church is different than looking at something on a screen. Well, what it is the modern day version of this lead, so to speak, that you're trying to turn into gold is your attention. Your attention is the lead in which they are using to transmute into whatever it is they want to transmute it into. So there's two parts of it, right? They're taking your attention and they are transmuting it into whatever kind of energy they want, while at the same time trying to change your literal spiritual makeup subconsciously into something that they believe is a higher form of oneself, right? So, these people are not like you or me. These people don't think how we think. Their entire conception of the universe is entirely different. A lot of people that have a basic and rudimentary understanding of sort of the occult, or these people, they think like, oh, they want to invert everything. They're satanic. They're devil worshippers, which is sort of true in like a very like elementary way, right?
It's almost making it understandable for modern man. It's the layman's terms of it.
Exactly. Yeah. It's what you would tell a 5-year-old, right? Which is a basic understanding, but what it is it's so much deeper and so much more in depth than you think. These people aren't just trying to like be evil. They don't even think that they're evil. They think you're evil and they think your nature is one that is fallen, right? So right. That's what it is. It's just like any villain, right? Like Dr. Doom doesn't think he's evil. He thinks he's good. That's like that's what the villain is. The villain,
right?
So, the alchemy kind of side of it is really the key to understanding the way that they kind of are trying to change and transmute one's energy into kind of something else.
Yeah. No, well, it makes sense. I mean, when you look at just how much time and effort's put into keeping our attention focused on whatever the algorithm demands, right? And it's a great interpretation of that. So what was next for you, man? I mean, your dad and you have both witnessed, or I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you kind of step back because you've seen the industry for what it was. How prevalent were witnessing people fall victim to this for you?
So I think it's extremely prevalent, right? Like if you just view the industry and the people in it, right? When you just kind of look at it for more than a second, it starts to unravel itself, right? So one thing that like I started noticing was everybody in the industry knows, not just like knows somebody, right? Like business is built off of relationships and who you know. There's always some sort of strange connection that is usually familial, right? And this goes for like forever, right? Like Frank Zappa's father, he was a chemist for like MK Ultra stuff. Jim Morrison's father was a Navy officer. All of these people have these connections. And the thing that's interesting is the connections go into serving this American principality that I was kind of saying earlier, right? If you're working for like the Navy, you are ultimately serving this principality of America that is under a higher power, which is, you know, whatever. That's where we get into higher realms of things.
Insert whatever analogy you want to insert there for sure.
Right. Like example, Ariana Grande. Ariana Grande's mother works for, well, actually, she's the CEO of a company that builds all of the Navy's telecommunication systems. Chappell Roan's uncle is like an American, he's either a senator or a congressman. Her father was, Chaperone's father was in the Navy. Like Sabrina Carpenter's aunt is a voice actor who's into Scientology, and by proxy, Sabrina Carpenter is like intertwined with Scientology. So you have Scientologists did a ton of things with the Navy like 50 years ago, 60 years ago, right? Yep. So it's all intertwined. It's all connected and enmeshed. And when you kind of start to think about it and you see this sort of military side of the connections of these people, you start to see what becomes, you know, the sort of foundation of what is a secular kind of religiosity, right? So it's like all of these kids are working as these people that are getting the public's attention that is being funneled into these sort of higher, more abstract realms of what builds up the sort of religious system.
Oh yeah, you're nailing it. It's you can see the layers to it all. And when when we look at it like this, it's almost like an endless stage of auditions for individuals and narcissists who, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's healthy narcissism and there's very much destructive narcissism. But I mean, I think all content creators, anyone that creates anything, who puts anything out there, has a sliver of narcissism about them. You know, look what I've made, look what I've created, come and see it, right? And that is on steroids when it comes to the higher levels of the music industry, right? We've got these individuals who the level of what they feel they're entitled to and where they sit in the world seems to be very disconjointed. And where it used to be in the 80s and 90s and where music was and who was famous, it seems to have just grown to such an out of control proportion because social media, for one, our attention, the way that music can spread, right? And the way that messages can spread. What has been the biggest misconception that you've seen when people are looking into the music industry and you're trying to tell them about this? What is the one thing that you feel people have missed the most? And have you seen a progression in people's understanding of this reality over time, Izzy?
Yeah, so I've definitely seen a progression in understanding. Like, I don't want to pat myself on the back too much, especially as we're talking about narcissists. But my Instagram has been pretty, I think, like pivotal in this kind of discussion. Like, I made an Instagram focusing on this kind of aspect of things a couple of years ago, and it really started getting a ton of attention. I mean, like a lot of views. Sure. And I've seen people go down this road of becoming a lot more conscientious of sort of what it is that they're consuming, right? Like, for example, great example, the Grateful Dead. The Grateful Dead are this band that people, if you're a Deadhead, you love the Grateful Dead. People absolutely lose their shit over Jerry Garcia. Now, the Grateful Dead is super intertwined with a ton of things related to MK Ultra. They were, you know, kind of trafficking drugs throughout the entire 60s. There are FBI documents that discuss Jerry Garcia meeting with people in the FBI. They're tied in with Voice of America and Tucker Carlson's father, who, ran Voice of America, which was essentially, this sort of CIA program to kind of destabilize nations using the radio. Like, another example, Dave Grohl. Dave Grohl's father was a speechwriter for Ronald Reagan. Dave Grohl was from the Washington, D.C. Punk scene. He was not an original member of Nirvana. He was inserted into Nirvana after Nirvana made the Bleach album. He was essentially, in my opinion, like a kind of handler for Kurt Cobain. So my point is with all of this is I have made videos on these things that have millions and millions and millions of views, and a lot of people have began to kind of really become conscientious about what the music industry is, which is essentially this massive sort of it is a massive system that is doing the bidding of this sort of religious sort of
it's getting there people's heads around the fact that there is this underlayer of occultism and religion and worship. Did you ever see any, and I ask a lot of people this, did you ever see any symbols or iconography or like occultist symbology throughout your career that was less about marketing and looking fucking badass? It was more about things that were hidden.
All of it.
All of it, right? Yeah, okay.
So okay. Like, perfect example, Red Hot Chili Peppers logo is an 8-pointed star. The 8-pointed star is the symbol of chaos magic. Another example is like there's a newer artist. His name's Stu Hollis, and he's kind of a young kid. I think he's really good, and I think he's cool. But he has an album called Stars. The cover of that is Metatron's cube. Like, if you look at basically any group, there are sigils intertwined. There is symbology there that is meant to sort of, symbolism is the universe's universal language, right? Like, when we think about what symbols essentially are the way the universe communicates things on a level that is not spoken, right? So let's take what's a famous symbol, like the star on Israel's flag, right?
Okay, yeah.
That is known as the Star of David colloquially, sure. Right? I call it the Star of Remphan because that's what it is. But it's what two shapes would you say are the two shapes that make up that star?
It's triangles, right?
Two triangles, right? So you have one triangle that is right side up, and you have another one that's upside down. Those are occult symbols. Those are alchemical symbols. The symbol of the triangle that is right side up is a symbol of fire in alchemy. The one that is upside down is a symbol for water in alchemy. When you take both of these, okay, they're separate, fire and water. Fire is akin to man in alchemy. Water is akin to woman in alchemy, right? Now, when you combine these two, what do you get? You have these lines that appear on each one as well, right? Like, so you have this, and then the other one is that on top of it. So there's a line going in and in, right? Those are the signs for air and earth. A triangle with a line through it and a triangle with a line through it. So we have fire and water combining two opposites that are coming together. You also have air and earth, two opposites coming together. Those are the four elements, the traditional four elements, right? So these are symbols that have been used for thousands and thousands of years to tell us more than just it's the Star of David. It's actually this entire alchemical process that I'm talking about, right? What alchemy is, as I said earlier, is it is trying to transmute and to change oneself in a better way, right? Well, this transmuting within this alchemical hermeneutic system is trying to complete something called the great work, okay? The great work is trying to get back to something called the prima materia. The prima materia is the primary matter of the universe. So when you take these elements and you transmute them using alchemy, which is a proto-science, which is trying to change things to come back to their primary material, what you're essentially doing is you're trying to fuse opposites. Okay, so fire and water coming together to make this symbol is the fusion of opposites. Mm-hmm. That is how you get things back to their primary matter, right? So these mystics and these Kabbalists, the way that they view reality, all of reality is made up of these four elements, right? These four elements are the separation of the primary matter that I'm talking about. So when the universe became what it was, all of these things emanated. They became emanations of what they believe is God, right? And it separated all of these things that were never supposed to be separated. So the alchemical process is trying to bring all of these things back together to put them back into their primary material form, okay? That is the completion of the great work, and that is how you get what is called the rebus, okay? The rebus is a sort of symbol, like we're talking about, of man and woman together, okay? It's a symbol with a man's head and a woman's head. This is what they believe is the Adam Kadmon, which is the primary human. Like the original, these people believe that when Adam was created, it wasn't Adam. It was Adam Kadmon. It was a primary proto-human that was man and woman. It was all elements all together. It was the culmination of all things. It's the primary mover. So the entire music industry, entire system of music, and all of these shows that are actually just massive rituals is all one massive, entirely huge ritualistic alchemical process trying to culminate and bring everything back to its primary matter, the prima materia. That's what they're trying to do.
And when it comes to this prima materia, right? You know, when you were talking about how alchemy was explained with the gold and the lead analogy, right? Mm-hmm. Which is kind of a way of the peasant folk becoming confused and knowing they can't achieve this, so there's no point in even investigating it, right? Do you get similar vibes when you get to this level of your investigation, where this coming together could be a misrepresentation of what the real agenda is?
Yeah, so I think, a lot of people will look at kind of that, or what I just explained, and they'll think that that's a lot. That's like a lot to handle, right? That's a lot. And
it's defining the true meaning of it, Izzy, right? It's truly understanding what the end game for them is by this returning, because people talk about the great reset, right? Which is another way of saying returning to something. Could be this, right? Do you feel like we're all talking the same thing and using different labels for all?
Yeah, I could see that. I could see it being something like that. I think, there are factions and sort of different teams that are trying to do some things more than others. But I do think ultimately it is kind of, it's like you're saying, like different words or different ideas for kind of the same thing, right? Because, these symbols they exist almost in like a platonic realm where they're like above kind of the things we're talking about, right? Like the idea of fire exists outside of fire. The idea of water exists outside of water. So, symbols are that in which we can have a kind of language to understand things that are transcendental, that are metaphysical, that are outside of the material, right? Because ultimately, right, like I'm talking about this kind of alchemical, process and this system that they use in order to transmute your energy, right? They're taking your energy and your attention and they're transmuting it using these hermeneutic principles and these hermeneutic ideas, and it's interesting because you kind of get to this point where you're like, well, that's a lot. That like how can you kind of say that? How can you kind of prove it? And the way that I've sort of made these connections and kind of proofed these things is whenever you take almost any musician, any artist, and you trace the connections that are intertwined with them, it always goes back to these people who have been a sort of priest class for the last like 6,000 years, right? So one example, let's take Ozzy Osbourne.
Okay.
Ozzy Osbourne, what's Ozzy Osbourne's nickname? Do you know?
I can't remember.
The Prince of Darkness, right?
Prince of Darkness, of course.
Yeah, he's got the bats and he's got the spooky, scary stuff, right? So most people would see that and they would think, oh man, he's like a satanic guy, right? Like he loves the devil or whatever. Okay, sure. But let's peel these layers back, right? Ozzy Osbourne was in a band called Black Sabbath. Black Sabbath had a manager who had signed them and he was in charge of them. And his name was Dan Arden, right? Dan Arden is known as the Al Capone of rock and roll. He was famous for like, he would hang people out of windows who owed him money. He got arrested for like kidnapping an accountant, just a kind of a fucking badass, right? Yep. Mind you, this is how all of the British rock people were, by the way. But we'll leave that there. So Dan Arden had to change his name. And the reason he changed his name is he was dealing with what he called anti-Semitism. His real name is Harry Levy. Harry Levy, okay, had a daughter. His daughter is Sharon Osbourne. So what happened is Black Sabbath sort of had a falling out. Ozzy leaves. He's out of...
wait. What did you say? What did you say the guy's real name was?
Harry Levy.
LeVay.
Yeah. So listen. Yeah. Just watch. Let's just listen.
Okay, I'm with you now.
So he changes his name to Dan Arden. The real name's Harry Levy. Ozzy leaves. Ozzy completely leaves. He does his own thing. He does the Ozzy Osbourne thing. Now he's doing Crazy Train. His manager becomes Sharon Osbourne, Sherry Levy. Her real name is Sherry Levy. The last name Levy, okay, goes all the way back. It goes back 6,000 years to the Levitical priest class, okay? 6,000 years ago when, Judaism was just beginning to form, Aaron and Moses were the sort of priests of the Hebrews. They were the priest class. The Levites were a tribe within the original 12 tribes of Israel. They were the priests. They performed all of the religious ceremonies and the burnt offering sacrifices, and they also were the musicians of all of the tribes of Israel. They were the musician class. They were the musicians. They played all of the music. They did all of the ceremonies. So basically what I'm trying to say is that entire priest class carries over today, and all of those people to this day still run all of entertainment and all of music. Okay. Nothing ever changed. Nope. The names might change. His name might be Don Arden. It's not. He's a Levite. He's of Levi. So the last names, Cohen, Katz, Siegel, Horowitz, all of these last names stem all the way down through these lineages, and they are still in charge of the Levitical priest class. That's what the music industry is. That's to this day. That's what it is.
Well, 100%. It's serving a certain. I mean, it's becoming more mainstream now that people know what's going on, Izzy, right? I mean, I think a lot more people have woken up than ever
Right.
have. Do you see this ever being stopped, right? I mean, we've seen with the Diddy case how quickly they want to just pin it on one guy and sweep the possibility of a larger group of individuals under the table, right? Do you think we're ever going to see this stop? Or are we looking at tens of thousands of years of progression within this occultist worship?
So, that's an interesting question. I think there's a lot to it, right? Like there is right now it's happening in a bigger sense is
Okay.
we are moving through something called astrological ages. Okay. Every 2,160 years, we move into a new astrological age. So we just left the age of Pisces, and now we're moving into the age of Aquarius, right? There's the famous song, Age of Aquarius, right? We're moving into this new age, this new astrological age. Now, what sort of the quote unquote zodiac is just like the sort of my breaking down of the Star of David or Star of Remphan. It's symbols. The zodiac is a symbol system in which the universe communicates to us. So all of these symbols that are used within these astrological ages can tell us and give us insight of what is to come. Okay. I'm not a big like astrology guy. I'm really not. But
it's fascinating though, right? Like,
no, it's super fascinating.
The more you peel away at the label of it all, like it starts to blow your mind. It really does. But yeah, right. Carry on, Izzy.
Yeah, and so astrology is one of these systems that these individuals use, right? In the age of Aquarius, there really are two kind of ruling, I guess, like planets or kind of forces, right? You have Saturn, which is one which relates really into what we're talking about with the cults of Saturn, all of that. There's also Neptune. Okay, so Saturn represents the material. Neptune, within the age of Aquarius, represents kind of this more like ethereal, sort of more angelic realm. So what we're kind of going to see is a split, right? Within this new age, there's these two kind of ruling sort of ideas, and it's going to be that of the material and that of the ethereal. So you're going to have people who really kind of evolve forwards in a material or technological sense. And then there's going to be the opposite, where it's like these people are sort of evolving in a more transcendental, metaphysical way. So to answer your question, yes, I think that things are going to continually change and progress. The veil is thinning, the veil is lifting. And for those, it's going to lift for everybody. But everybody is either going to funnel into one of two paths: the technological, the Elon Musks, or there's going to be the more metaphysical, philosophy, transcendental side of it, right? Like if you really think about the progression of people in general in the last like 3 years, you've gone from having people say that, Epstein is fake to people like Candace Owens, just like, she's like a huge content creator now, and she's like a big truther, right? So people are waking up. People are interested in the truth. Who they get the truth from is definitely very important, but they are interested, which is huge. So do I ever think that there's going to be like this massive, like huge day of reckoning? I don't think that is going to happen, but I think that you're going to have people who see, oh, this is this. I know what this means. I know what this is. I could see the connections forming from this because they're so interested in the truth and these veils thinning because of the astrological age that we're in.
So when we start looking at this in the broader spectrum, okay, how far do you feel we're away from a major event taking place?
I think we're pretty close. I think, here's one thing. So whenever you have multiple sort of sources telling you the same things along the same themes, you're in a psyop. Okay. there are many people who are a part of many different factions that are in charge of the psyopification or the sort of like mass MK Ultra mind rape of people. Okay.
Okay. Yep.
So, you know, it's kind of like one of those things where everybody right now, for just an example, everybody is on this like alien thing. And it really kind of came out of nowhere. Like all of a sudden it's just like Bob Lazar's on Rogan, aliens here. Everybody's talking about aliens. Oh, these two scientists who are doing stuff with aliens and like, you know, strange technology that like they've been killed or they committed suicide, quote unquote. Right. So this alien thing is really arising in this way in which a lot of different people in a lot of different places are talking about it. Obama's talking about it. You have Trump bringing it up.
It was a crazy one. I felt like it was forget about the Epstein files and we'll open the UFO shoebox that's been gathering dust. That's the vibe.
Absolutely. And the thing is like we're saying, right? The veil is thinning. People can see this. People can kind of feel it, right? There's something in the air. Like there are people like me who can kind of orate and communicate these things. And then there are people who they just feel something. Both of these things are happening simultaneously, right? But the alien thing is like super obvious to me. Another example of this is kind of, you know, we have Ye, right? Formerly known as Kanye West. Now I have a lot of, ideas on him, and ultimately I think that he is a force of good, but I think that there's a lot of things going on that convolute and confuse that. One thing we can say is he is absolutely like one of the most influential, biggest people on the planet is in terms of art. Whether you like him or not, he is very influential. He's canceled for years for these remarks that he's made about the painter, and he's sort of exiled, right? And he can never come back. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, he's kind of allowed back into the public zeitgeist. And what is shoehorned into his entire thing? It's aliens. Like there's like this show he does where he's on a globe and there's all this alien imagery that's being like shoehorned into what he's doing. I believe that they allowed him to come back from the unforgivable words that he spoke and uttered in order to help push this alien agenda, right? So let's
just so everyone understands, to put in perspective, Kanye West brought out a new single a couple of weeks ago, right? I think it has like 10 million views in about 30 hours, right? So when people think about Kanye West and his cancellation, I mean, his impact's still there. I mean, people are still
not even like so he had an album come out that had like 100 billion streams in like the first like 3 days. So like his influence is immense. But you know, here's the thing with Ye is he's an artist that is always forward thinking. He has said this like so many times in so many different interviews. Ye literally does not associate with people that are like older than like 30 because he doesn't think anyone older than 30 can even help him because he's trying to go forward. But here's the deal. In 2018, Ye was going to do this album called Yandi. Yandi had a ton of alien imagery and it was interlaced with this cult called the Raelian cult. The Raelian cult is this cult that believes that there have been 40 alien human Elohim hybrids that have been dropped throughout human history that are sort of prophets. So they believe Christ was one, Krishna was another, Buddha was one. Ye believes he is one of these alien human hybrids. Now, this was like an idea that he was toying with in 2018, but ultimately he dropped it and he did the Jesus is King era. So this is very important. Ye never revisits old ideas. He never revisits old things. He had a song with Young Thug called Alien. He had the video with Katy Perry called Extraterrestrial from like 2007. So the alien thing, he's moved on from the alien thing. But now what they're doing is they've reinserted this sort of alien agenda to bring Ye back using this Raelian kind of stuff. Now, the reason Ye was kicked off of Twitter the first time is because he posted, as we're speaking about earlier, the Star of Remphan. And within the Star of Remphan, there was the famous swastika that was posted inside of it. This image was seen as, anti-Semitic, and I can't believe he would post this, but the image is actually the symbol of the Raelian cult. Now, here's where this gets really interesting. The Raelian cult claimed to have been the first people to actually create cloning facilities and cloning labs all over the world. So the Raelian cult is super intertwined with the clone stuff. So what is the big theory with the big theory with Ye is that he was cloned, and he's not who he is. Now he has this new music video, Father, where his face is ripped off to reveal he's actually an alien. And all of this alien stuff is coming back out. It's intertwined with this Raelian cult imagery he dropped 8 years ago. And now it's all kind of a part of this big system that's moving forward, right?
Yeah, there you go. It's Father I was talking about. Yeah, 16 million views, man.
Yeah. And
it's interesting that Travis Scott's in there too.
Yeah, Travis Scott's another one with a lot of things going on. The Astro World,
Astro World. He's got some very interesting friends in the fashion world that he likes to rub shoulders with that are eye-opening.
Michelle Lemmy, the high priestess of Paris. You know what's crazy about Michelle Lemmy? Michelle Lemmy, okay, she was actually a direct student of a philosopher named Deleuze. Deleuze is like an insanely famous philosopher, and she was a direct student of him. And a lot of what he was into was like this sort of post-modernity, this post-modern ideology that is essentially, the post-modernity is the fabric of the destruction of the West and of traditional sort of Neoplatonic ideas, right? It's the death of objectivity. Nothing is objective. There is no objective truth. There is no objective right and wrong. Everything is whatever anyone thinks it is. And this is a part of that further destabilization and the creation of chaos to get us back to the prima materia. That's what that is.
That's wild. It is wild. And when we talk about high priestesses and the music industry, is there anyone else that sticks out in your mind that you want to throw on the table when it comes to artists and the music industry?
There's a lot. I think, I'm really torn because I think there are a lot of people who didn't know what they were signing themselves up for. And I think a lot of people just don't know. A lot of people don't know how to get out of it. Like I'll say this. This is what I'll say. That's interesting is I have met a lot of people who are, I guess you'd say like famous or something, right?
Sure. Or just like literally. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Like, and the way that they look at someone like me who tells the truth, who understands these things and who has a connection with a higher power. My personal higher power is Jesus Christ, right? My entire, life is devoted to the truth and to getting people to understand these higher realms of transcendental, metaphysical good that is inherently in life, right? And that is in reality. These people will look at people like me who are trying to spread light with this sort of sad desperation of knowing that they are basically slaves. That's like what these celebrities are. They are slaves to a system that is ultimately this materialist, dead materialism that is trying to quite literally master all of reality and harness all of reality and hold it to where it can't go anywhere higher, right? So when somebody is sort of a slave to something, they know it, right? Like they've been sold this bill of goods. They've been sold like what does it mean to be the king of nothing? What does that mean? You're like it doesn't matter. Like that doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything, right? So it's really sad. It really ultimately is sad. But I think a lot of where we're going is going to get interesting. I guess I'll say that.
Well, listen, I agree. When we talk about high priestesses, right? Abramovich is another one. that's deeply woven within it all. What's your take on, because when you were talking about the destruction of effectively morality and good and bad and everyone just doing what they want, right? It reminded me a lot of her like art installations where she would stand there for 2 or 3 days and allow people to hug her or stab her or burn her or kiss her or whatever, right? And that sort of encapsulate everything that you were talking about, the philosopher and Michelle Lamy, right? Is that mindset.
Yeah. So Marina is another one who, you know, ultimately what she's doing is this post-modern showcase of exactly what you just described. Marina is so with Michelle Lemy, her nickname is literally the High Priestess of Paris. She's like really close friends with Marina Abramovich. These women are high priestesses within, you know, these circles. Now, there are people under them that are their students. So here's one that like always shocks people. James Franco is super intertwined with Marina Abramovich. I've done videos on James Franco.
Yeah. You understand why though, right? You understand why the occult, because see, when we're talking about fame and fortune and people who have it, Izzy, right? People who are established, it's the thing you get that person for Christmas who's got everything, right? Is the thing you cannot obtain, the secret knowledge, the wisdom, mysticism, all of that. And it's kind of what pulls them all in is this unobtainable factor. And that's combined with, you don't really know what you're getting into that you spoke about earlier, is the catalyst for a lot of people, I think.
No, absolutely. It's like, you know, and this is what's really funny, right? It's like they want the thing they can't have, which is, it starts off as this like esoteric knowledge. Then eventually you kind of learn the esoteric knowledge, you learn the symbols, you understand astrology and symbolism and all the things they use. And then the thing that you end up not being able to obtain is the transcendental higher ideas of love, right. Happiness. You then can't obtain them because you have tainted your inner sanctum so much in trying to understand these different esoteric concepts, because they don't want to understand these things like academically, right? Like part of like what I do is I learn and I understand these things in an academic sense, and then I purvey that knowledge in a way that is simple for people to understand. But in order to like really intrinsically know these things, you have to do these rituals. You have to taint yourself in these ways to truly know them, right? Like how do you really know something? You have to kind of almost become it. So like with James Franco, I've done videos, a ton of videos on him. He does these rituals with these people like Kenneth Anger. Kenneth Anger has associations with Crowley and all these people, and they do these rituals and they become these former dark husks of themselves, right? Like if you see James Franco when he was a young man, he was like a handsome, like good, carefree kind of looking guy. And if you see him now, he's tainted his being, he's destroyed himself, and he has become succumbed to the ways of, you know, these priestesses, as you say. Like perfect example, he did an invocation of the spirit of Mars in like the early 2000s. Now, him doing this was a mirroring of a ritual that Aleister Crowley did, where he tried to invoke the spirit of Mars. Now, this is what I think is like so funny, right? This says everything you need to know about these people. Is he did a public display of this. People came and they watched him do this. Now, when he did it, he wore this like kind of mask over his whole face. Now, when he did this thing wearing this mask, he got backlash from people online. Well, he tried to then reel it back and say, oh, well, that actually wasn't me. That was actually a stand-in who was wearing the mask. It wasn't actually me. I got caught in a flight somewhere else. It wasn't me. So my point is he did this ritual. Then when he got the backlash, he then retroactively tried to say that it actually wasn't him who did the thing, meaning that they want to do the thing without any of the consequences. The consequences of your actions is people think it's weird that you did this thing. And now you're trying to like get out of it, right? Like this is their entire being. This is their entire life. Like their entire life is It's going to be them subverting, lying, manipulating, destroying the material realm. And then when it's time for the consequences, they're going to try to say, I didn't know, I was this, I was that, right? Because really what they really want is what they can't have, which is exactly what you said.
Well, I mean, this is the thing. Like I can't remember the name of the guy. Someone in the side chat might know. There was a guy on YouTube who years ago he started doing a whole bunch of rituals, and it wasn't, sacrificial blood stuff. It was a lot of dark black magic. And I think he got banned after one of his subscribers tried to unalive his sister. And I can't remember the guy's name, but bro, you know those like crackhead mugshot compilations of like day 1 when someone's arrested, and then like day 50, and it's just like a toothless progression into crack hell. This guy, he gave up his family. He built this huge, like, what the hell is it called? Evil place of worship, bro. It was wild. Right. And his physical change, right? It was almost like a badly done Netflix movie, right? Where it was so withdrawn and just so, it looked like someone, you know what? You ever like whittled a spoon?
No.
Okay. Well, like you can whittle too much into the spoon and the wood becomes like transparent and see-through, right? It was like it looked like someone had whittled too much of the inside of him away. It was fucking weird, bro. I can't remember his name. He was a really good looking dude at the start of it all. Like he looked like a Wish.com Thor from Thor 1.
Right.
Like, he was a good looking dude. But man, it is like when you see one of those guys that's like done like real hard work for like 30 years, but they're only like 22.
Right. You know, that's an interesting sort of like thought, right? Like there's something called physiognomy. Physiognomy is essentially, it's like astrology of the face, basically. And you can kind of take people's face and you can kind of get information from them. It has to do with symbolism and taking symbolism and kind of, taking the universal language of the universe, which is symbolism, and kind of using someone's face to do it, right? But
well, I'm going to have to find him now, bro. So if you hear tapping in the background, you're going to have to filibust for a couple of minutes here. So go into some details. I'm going to have to use some, I'm hunting this down. I can't remember the guy's name. Anyway, you carry on. I'm going to find this.
Yeah, you're good. So this sort of physiognomy, right? The change in one's appearance is like the change in your soul is reflected in your appearance. In fact, if you look to like the Old Testament, there's a story of Nebuchadnezzar, and they said Nebuchadnezzar, who was like this brutal king, he was a really bad guy, but he would become beastly in his appearance because he would kill people and mutilate them, and he was just this really bad person, right? And what happened is his physiognomy literally began changing to mirror his soul. And yeah, that's like 100% something that happens.
Wait, please see this guy. Right, hang on a second. It's for those of you who know what I'm talking about, it's EA Coating is the guy's name, right? And like I'm just trying to find the early day photo of him, right? Okay, so here he is, right? Look, this is him at the start of his career, bro, right? Now just bear with me, everyone. I need to just shove us across here. It looks like a normal dude, right? Yeah. Wish.com Thor, you know what I'm saying? Like normal looking dude. And then you fast forward, bro. Like, just give me 1 second to just find a banger here. Like, what is going on now? What am I looking at here? Like,
oh yeah.
Like,
oh yeah, his cheeks are completely different.
The nose is gone.
Sanpaku eyes. He has the under the eyes are.
I mean, he does not mess around. Like, I mean, he goes all out theatrics, or he used to, in his content, and he'll publish lore-based grimoires where he says, he's been here and there. Here he is. Here, he was holding one. There he is. There. Like these are the grimoires he'll sell. But
Yeah.
this is his little room. This is, remember I said he built this room. Like, bro, it is wild. And the physical changes in this guy over time, it is truly a depiction of obsession that has consumed someone. Here's another picture. Look at this guy. Totally different dude.
Oh yeah. Oh, his eyes are gone. Look at the soul. Look at the soullessness in his eyes. They're vacant. Wild. They're voids.
It's, I mean, and then when we cut back again, it's such a contrast. Oh, I'll show you one more. This is again, we're getting towards the end of like the meth head mugshots here. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh yeah, he looks horrible there.
It's wild, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is, see, you know, this is like a really good reflection of so the material, the self, the material realm. It is this hermeneutic principle of like, as above, so below, as within, so without. You know, the outside is a reflection of the inside. The inside is a reflection of the outside. And like, this is literally what, like, this is a actual physical manifestation of these sort of changes they are trying to implement.
Yeah, it's wild. And again, I'm not criticizing anybody's choice of worship here, right? We're not talking, again, no one's doing any like on the island craziness that I brought, like that I was showing there. But the physical consumption, bro, I mean, too much of anything's bad for you, man. But when you start to live for that sole purpose, when the consumption is there, but when you make that choice yourself to isolate, right, and you're stuck in this little tower that you've built yourself, like Mr. Coating does, it's one thing. But when it's the music industry and you're sucked into this global spell casting, right? I mean, let's be honest, symbols, letters are just really simple symbols, right? There's reasons why we call it spelling. Like, I say this all the time. And when you've seen what's taken place in some concerts, Izzy, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's been a lot of shit after the Jeremy times, we'll call them. Everything just seemed to get ramped up. It was like, okay, we need to harvest some worship here. We need mega concerts with a whole bunch of weird symbols going on, a whole bunch of weird everything going on. What has been, and also, what's your dad's opinion on that? Because I imagine he's got like a few decades on seeing it progress, and then you've picked up, you know, where I imagine he left off. But what would you say is like has been the most like shocking part of what's happened with the concerts?
So, yeah, when it comes to my dad, he like exiled himself entirely from the music industry and basically like the world, kind of. So okay, he just like, he's like disconnected because he has seen it way more like than I have. And I go into a lot more detail on my channel about my dad and kind of his story with involving me, which is really crazy. Sure. But he just removed himself almost like he can't even, he literally like cannot even see it. It makes him so unhappy and unwell.
Which is really testament to the gravity of what's taking place, really.
Yeah. And, you know, the next video I'm working on is about Coachella. And it is me sort of explaining and breaking down what you're saying, right? Which is these shows are rituals, and these rituals are purveying symbols onto you and into your subconscious, right? Like if we think about like psychoanalytics and we think about people like Carl Jung, and I know Sigmund Freud is kind of like a joke, but you know, Sigmund Freud even had some ideas kind of correct about this, where the iceberg, right? The iceberg is this symbol where only so much of the iceberg is out of the water. Most of the iceberg is underwater, right? Of course, so when your consciousness works in the same way. You have your conscious waking thoughts and the things you think, and then you have the subconscious things. The subconscious is the things that make you think the things you think. So in the same way, when you're consuming these symbols and consuming these shows, it all resonates in your subconscious, and then it manifests upwards into your conscious and waking thoughts. So when these symbols, because these symbols are universal, as I've said this a couple times, it's the universal language of the universe. It is embedded inside of you already. Okay. They are meant to provoke these subconscious symbols and get them out to begin the alchemical process. This is what these shows and these concerts are, right? Now, obviously, there are some artists who are, you know, independent. It's not like every single, you know, there's some things, you know, take that with a grain of salt. But like example, right? We're talking about Marina Abramovich earlier, this sort of priest of priests, right? Mm-hmm. Marina has taught Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga has done shows where she will have these quote unquote performance artists come out and vomit on her while she sings. You know, this is all a massive system to suck you into the massive religious.
Well, it's funny you bring up Gaga, and it's funny that you bring up symbolism, right? Because do you remember this bizarre collaboration?
No. I had no idea about this.
So do you remember the pizza scandal symbols that were released by the FBI?
Yeah. I know Oreos all intertwined.
Oh, do you see the heart inside the heart symbol here, right? That's on this Oreo. This is the Lady Gaga Oreo collab, right? So I want you, Izzy, to screenshot or take a note of this, because I'm telling you, there's going to be some weird crap in here that I'm too dumb that I've not noticed that people were consuming. Okay, some sort of symbol of something, and you're going to find it. And I'm telling you, there's something in here. Because
I can do it right. I could do it right now. Just looking at this image.
What is, for a start, when you think of Lady Gaga, you're not thinking of green and pink for a start. I just want to point that out there. So I don't know what that's all about. But what is going on? So I'll give you some more zoomage here, because I've always wanted to know. And there you go, Chromatica. I think that was the single of the Gaga. Mm-hmm. What's your thoughts? First initial thoughts here.
Well, so first you have, excuse me, like you're saying, the heart inside of the heart, which is like girl lover. Mm. But the one under that is more interesting to me. The one that looks like first of all, it looks like the Ouroboros, which is the snake eating itself, right? Which is like all things are cycles, basically. But really, what that looks like to me is the yin yang symbol, which is the yin yang symbol. That one.
Yeah.
So the yin yang symbol is literally, it's the Eastern version of what I was describing earlier, which is
exactly. I was going to actually say it sounds a lot like when you boil it down into the yin and yang, right? The two sides coming together.
It's literally exactly that, right? So the yin and the yang are male and female. It is fire and water. It is the blending of opposites. You are taking two things that are opposite of one another, and you're combining them to literally create
into another person, which is what
materia,
which is behind that.
Yeah, to create the rebus. That is to create the atom Cadmon, which is the first primary mover man. That's like what that is.
I'd buy that analogy. I can definitely see the rudimentary yin yang, and then when you give the analogy that you have, we've got a person standing behind it, right? I mean, it's just crazy. I couldn't miss the opportunity to ask.
Yeah, for sure. Like,
I'm sorry, I whip out a cookies question, right? As one of my questions, you know what I'm saying? But it was interesting because we've all seen the bizarreness, right? We've seen the celebrities round tables with actual human, you know, heads that are actors that are pop their head to the table and all this kind of stuff. We've seen people lying in vats of what looks like human, you know, blood, but it'll be some fine dining experience, right? But it's all of this conditioning of sticking your snack into what looks like a bloodied human corpse and consuming it, right? And symbolism and the meaning behind it all, and will and intention, and all of it is lost on so many people. And this allure that this occult has when it comes to music, and it's a dangerous slope that we're all well aware of. But you touched quickly on independent music, right? There's a lot of people. I think the majority of the stuff I listen to now, apart from obviously my horrible sins okay, and my the things that are just too embarrassing to admit you listen to. I think most of the stuff I listen to now is independent stuff on YouTube, you know.
Right.
And do you think that, because there's a big difference, right, between seeing a mainstream artist flying down massive flying private jets, red carpets, huge events, all of this, right? All of that is what we see, okay, as you know, when we're looking into it from the news, and or when we're observing it as a human being, right? And when you take all of that away, how much money people end up with, the costs to actually get to that level of the music industry, do you think people are more happy to just have a more normal life where the fame might not be as massive, but to some independent artists, you know, 500,000, 750,000, 1 million, 2 million followers has given them a really good life? And you think we're going to start seeing that shift? Because it makes a lot more sense to me to cut out all the middlemen and be your own man, or metaphorically your own man, right? Do you think we're ever going to see where that appeal is across the board?
It's beginning now. So what the Drake Kendrick beef was, okay, I talked earlier about shifting into this new astrological age, right? That the Drake Kendrick beef was two sides of the music industry at war with one another. You have the old guard and the new guard.
Okay.
The old guard is represented by these systems that worship a deity known as Baal. The new guard is more of a Luciferian kind of worshippers, right? They're two parts of the same system. Now, Drake represents the old guard. Kendrick Lamar represents the new guard. They are both these sort of priests within this system that is the music industry. Now, the new system is the sort of Luciferian system, and it is one that is going to become more and more prevalent as time goes on. It's going to be that which is more sort of technological. It is more of the streaming. It's going to really kind of change the landscape of the music industry. It's sort of the son of Lucian Grange, who is in with a bunch of people. It's a lot. It's really complex. But
they've perfected. They need to shut down all of us creatives, bro. They've got to shut down all the creatives, because creativity is what inspires conversation, right? And we're seeing things slowly being taken away creativity wise, and it's a scary slope. It's a scary slope. But sorry for interrupting you, Izzy.
Oh no, you're good. Yeah, you're good. No, yeah, you're good. You're right, and that's ultimately where people are headed. They are people within the new age. They are seeing the truth. The veil is being lifted, and people are going to choose the transcendental good, the transcendental light, and they will, quote unquote, settle for a smaller life that is one that is filled with light, God, all of these things, right? Like perfect example, like me, I still, pursue music. Like I still like to make music, but I don't think I would ever, like if somebody came to me right now and was like, we'll give you $10 million and you can, like, I don't think that would be something I would want to do, because I would be a slave within a system that I ultimately can see through.
This is the thing. Is it $10 million? Because
no, it's not. You owe that money. It's an advance.
Crazy, right? It's crazy.
Yeah, it's an advance. You owe it.
Right. It doesn't make any sense. Like, so they give you an advance to bring you in so that you can write your music for them to sell, to then bill you for.
Yeah, so then they own it. Well, see, that's the thing, is like that is ultimately, right? Like, Kanye West, whatever you want to call him, he is somebody who was able to game the system, and he beat the game. He literally beat the music industry. He used Rockefeller Records. He used all of these massive institutions, and came out the other end of it like a literal billionaire who owned all of, like, he beat the game. And what he has talked about specifically, like during the Vultures era, was why are artists creating these systems in which there is a ton of different hoops for you to jump through to get your music to somebody, right? If I write a song, I can just write the song and upload it to, some independent music thing, and you can have it. What the industry does is it creates all of these middlemen, these A&R, all of these things that are creating barriers to entry for the musician. But here's what's fucked up. You're talking about the independent music industry, right? The independent music industry is owned entirely by Universal Music. So Universal went in and Universal bought a company called Downtown Music. Downtown Music is this entity that owns all of the independent music distribution sites. So every single single independent, every single one that's on the internet, unless it's like, if it's uploaded to any sort of streaming service, it is owned by Universal Music, and they get 9%. 9% of everything goes to Universal.
Right? Because I was going to say earlier that they figure out ways of making you think you're back in control, right?
Yeah.
So I'm independent, right? Okay, sure. But the platforms that your independence come from are owned by the overlords that you're trying to avoid, right? It's a double-edged sword, right? Mm-hmm. But it is as close to it as you can get, really. It's as good as it gets, and we're only going to see. I often say they make us beg for the things that we never wanted, right? They put us in a place where we're asking for them. You just got to look at how different the iPhone 1 is compared to the new iPhone, and how they slowly conditioned us into everything is now on this handset. Your whole. I mean, if you lose. You pick up that one device. In some cases, it's your house key, your car key, your bank, your payments, everything. It's a bit of a devastating moment when it gets lost compared to your Nokia 7210. And it's the same with industries. It's the same with everything, right? Yeah, I mean, the only analogy I've witnessed was when DJing started off on vinyls and is now totally as far from beat matching two vinyls together as you can possibly get, right? But that is progression, and look what it's produced, right? But the pushback at the start of that was wild, and then it happened when After Effects and computers started to get processing power that you could sit in your living room. It was some dude that done the special effects for the one of the big Star Trek movies that were remade through After Effects, and we've started to see this creative capability being handed back to individuals, whereas previously you needed a huge budget. Well, if you just got time and a bit of dedication, now you can spew it out. And now we're getting into the era of AI, and I feel like the world can see $1 million companies, right, replacing human effort with AI as a terrible choice. But when it comes to individuals who have no budget, it opens up a world to create where creation would have never been able to exist. It's a weird balance. It's a weird balance, bro, right? It really is. Okay.
Limitations spark ingenuity is ultimately what it is. It's like you become a system that has to work within your limitations, which you have to start thinking outside of the box, and I think that's why you see so many musicians where their greatest stuff is like their first album, their first two albums, because they don't have $150 million like marketing budget and stuff.
Sometimes, like Franz Ferdinand, the band. You ever heard of a band called Franz Ferdinand?
Yeah.
Right. They created their first album that was an unbeatable first album, right? Like they destroyed their own success with their first album because there was no way they were ever going to beat it, right? How important, and again, we're just going to have a little chit chat now as the show winds down, right?
Yeah.
How important do you think it is for artists who are coming out and going to be putting things out there? How is there a science to structuring your album? You know what I'm saying? Sure. There is, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like I've done quite a few music projects that I haven't released. Like I just, but yeah, there's a science to all of it. Like getting a set list ready, everything is, there's a science to it for sure. Like songwriting in general, and I think kind of like one thing that like the radio has kind of done is it's created these systems where it's like, oh, well, the song needs to be 3 minutes and 30 seconds and blah, 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 blah. Right. And radio friendly. And I think what the internet has done is it's really, like you're saying, it's taken the power back and given it back to the creatives, because now you can kind of upload and do whatever you want and kind of however you want to do it. And I think ultimately what we'll see as this age progresses is there's going to be some really new and interesting music genres that arise that are going to like kind of blow people's minds. And I think that that's always going to start independently. And then you're going to have the like draconian succubus that is the music industry come and try to reap the harvest of it.
Well, no, I don't even think they're going to try and reap the harvest. They're just going to give us the tools that we think are what make us independent and bill us for them and sit back and go, dumbasses.
Yeah.
But what other choice do we have, right? So until then, listen, Izzy, before we wind down, is there anything you're working on, you want to promote, anything you want to tell us about? Let us know what you've got coming next.
Yeah. So, I have a YouTube. My YouTube is at Izzy and Griffin. I have a ton of great stuff on there. The real stuff is on my Patreon, patreon.com/Izzy and Griffin. Everything on YouTube is a trailer for my Patreon where the full videos actually are, but I upload stuff all over the place. I'm in this interesting transitionary period when it comes to my sort of my own creativity, and I have a lot of like really crazy cool stuff that I'm coming out with, and I just think the industry is absolutely really worried about what I'm going to be doing moving forward. I'll put it that way.
Looking forward to hearing about it. And, I often wonder if the reason that they've not arrested everyone from the Epstein files isn't because they're worried everything will collapse. They're worried that we'll realize we don't fucking need them anymore. So, Izzy, don't go anywhere. Stay there. Once the show ends, I want to have a chat with you. But look, thank you everyone for being here. I'm live in about 20 minutes over on my own channel. It's my birthday. We're going to be talking about some new projects and all the rest of it. So I'll see you guys over there. Make sure you like and subscribe and share, do all that good stuff. And from me, Ron Swanson, as always, be safe.